I'm joined remotely via Zoom by Shannon Eizenga, the Executive Director of the Gubbio Project. Shannon, thank you for being here. I would love to start this morning with just having you share with the audience why St Boniface Church created the Gubbio Project.
Sure, absolutely. So the Gubbio Project was founded in 2004 by Father Louis Vitali, a Franciscan priest and big lifetime social justice activist, was arrested over 400 times for different initiatives and movements. And he had been assigned to the parish in the Tenderloin, St Boniface Church. And so the story goes, he would go out in the mornings before opening up the gate to the church and would just be in relationship and have conversations with the people sleeping in the tents and sleeping on the streets. And through relationship, he discovered there was this big need where folks who were living on the streets were not actually getting any kind of quality sleep. No surprise, the streets are not a restful place. And he looked at this huge empty church and thought, well, what is church? How are we living our values? How are we living our Franciscan values of honoring the inherent worth and divinity and dignity of all life? And the seed of Gubbio was born then. And so he opened up the sanctuary doors. It was a long, complicated process to get buy-in from the community and parishioners, but eventually he did. And the Gubbio Project was born, a space where folks can come in to the sanctuaries and get some compassionate refuge and respite. And it has now become its own 501c3 profit separate from the church. And we have a separate location as well in the Mission in San Francisco.
And then I know that the sanctuary provides support services. Could you share just a little bit about what those sanctuary services are?
Yeah, so we endeavor to tend to the whole person. Folks are welcomed as they are. There's as barrier-free access as possible. So we tend to the psychological, spiritual, emotional, and physical well-being of our guests. Of course, if you come into the space on any given day, you will hear the sounds of deep slumber and snoring. Folks are resting. We also can make connections to other social services. We give out tons of supplies, everything from toiletries to garbage bags to razors to socks to sleeping bags to tents, you name it, we give it out. We have spiritual care, chaplains, and volunteers that are on site to be a presence of love and support to our guests. And, something that really matters a lot for our folks living on the streets, having clean, well-stocked restrooms where folks can tend to their bodies with some dignity. And, we're able to do different things at the different sites. We're able to offer food and massage, foot care. We have mobile health clinics that tend to our folks as well, and work really closely with a number of different partners in both neighborhoods.
And so how has COVID-19 impacted both the Gubbio Project and the two St. Boniface's Church and hosting those services?
Yeah, it's impacted us and the churches pretty dramatically. As you know, churches across the state are closed. Worship services have all gone on Zoom like everything else in our lives. And unfortunately, the Gubbio Project was not considered essential. We're not a formal shelter. We are a drop-in center, and a number of homeless service providers that provide a similar quality of service have either closed their services or have gone curbside. So, for example, the St. Anthony Foundation that makes meals every day, normally in their dining hall pre-COVID, have now had to shift to offering all of their meals prepackaged to go out the door. So the ways in which people are serving folks and providing care have had to shift dramatically. And for us, being in partnership with two faith communities, that has meant that we've had to close, which has been very, very heartbreaking and hard for us, because the folks who suffer the most, of course, are the ones who are already the most marginalized and scraping by as it is. We tend to see the most chronically homeless folks in the city. So we've shifted our our focus to advocacy as much as possible, really supporting our partners, other providers, working closely with the Coalition on Homelessness, working closely with the city, advocating to get our unhoused guests the care and services that they so desperately need right now.
And I know that you guys are shut down for the moment. How can people who are watching this get involved in supporting your efforts and or your network of partners while we're, all sheltering in place?
Mm-hmm. So there are a number of ways to get involved, and depending on folks' comfort level, obviously there are some folks who don't want to be leaving their house and shouldn't because they are a vulnerable population. And I absolutely support the orders to only be leaving your home for essential reasons. However, there are a couple of places that are looking for volunteers. I know Mother Brown's Kitchen in the Bayview is looking for help. The St. Anthony Foundation, while they're not accepting volunteers, they are doing really good work here on the ground and Glide, giving out food. Both will happily accept donations. Most places are going to be really grateful for financial donations right now. I think on the other side of this, we're going to be coming back to a very different fundraising climate because everybody's been hit really hard. I think the future looks really unclear. So if you can make a financial donation to a nonprofit that is providing support right now, please do that. Supporting the work of the Coalition on Homelessness and other partners that are advocating for hotels, for safe sleeping sites. Another big push that I know myself and other partners are working on is trying to just get staff and volunteers into the existing isolation and quarantine hotels. It's been really hard to staff those sites, whether they are hotels that are for vulnerable populations or the unsheltered population, which is its own vulnerable population. Goodwill, for instance, is trying to hire a cache of workers to be able to go in there. So if you are someone who's been unemployed or furloughed and you're looking for temporary work and you're looking for a way to give back and you have the resources and capacity to do that, Goodwill is looking to hire folks to step in and do that work. So that's another way.
Shannon, over the years that you've been doing this, what would you say has been the biggest impact that you and your team have made on the unhoused community members?
Oh, goodness. I think our impact is hard to quantify. And when you ask that question, George, the first thing I think of is a young woman that I met recently. Prior to COVID, I was in the church early one morning, 6 a.m., and a young woman came in with her 3-month-old baby. And she was escaping a domestic violence situation. And she had nowhere else to go. And she had started to get plugged in with some other services locally, but she just needed a couple of hours of rest. It was all that she needed. So she laid down in the pew. She handed me her baby, and I sat holding her 3-month-old baby while she rested in the pew. Underneath these gorgeous stained glass windows while incense is burning and people are coming in and out. It was a deeply moving experience for me and something that is so simple and yet so profound, that we existed as a space of sanctuary and refuge and safety where she could be welcomed and her child could be welcomed as she is, no questions asked. And if that isn't church, I don't know what is. So I think the community that has evolved out of Gubbio and the community specifically rooted in the acknowledgement and deep belief that all life has inherent value, that we are all worthy of respect and belonging and love, and that there's incredible transformation that is possible when we welcome the fullness of someone, regardless of the choices that they've made, regardless of the circumstances that they've experienced. And I think that's part of what makes Gubbio so special.
Thank you. That was a really wonderful story. And I think, the final question is, out of this pandemic and virtual meltdown, what do you see are things that, could come out of it to really help our unhoused community and our community at large?
Mm-hmm. Well, there are many things. And the first thing I'll say is there are so many brilliant people at all levels of this, from direct service on the ground, very grassroots, to city level, affecting policy change. There are brilliant people doing really good work and working really, really hard around the clock on this. And this has taken us a long time to get into this crisis, and COVID has exacerbated it. And unfortunately, there aren't easy fixes, but I have a lot of hope in what I'm seeing being done around getting folks into hotels and into safe spaces. I am hopeful that on the other side of this, whatever the other side of this is, I think we can all agree it will never look the same. I am hopeful that this is the catalyst to create more lasting change in how we are addressing homelessness and all of the related issues, that we might have some longer term lasting solutions to this crisis.
Thank you, Sharon. It was, I really love what you guys do. And I really think that, the whole community is coming together. And it's wonderful to see that, sadly, the meltdown has provided an opportunity to put a really large spotlight on your work, but also on the situation at large. And please stay safe out there. We'll make sure that viewers have, the contact information on how to get a hold of you and to make donations or to reach out. And I hope that you and your staff are safe and healthy, and really appreciate everything that you guys do.
Thank you so much, George. You as well.